welcome to Southpaw Bears All, our podcast series that explores trends and the future for brands. Today, we're focusing on the glorious subject of wine, and I'm thrilled to be joined by our special guest, Sam Capehorn. So Sam is a master of wine, one of only 384 in the world. Sam is also the founder of Mistress of Wine, so go Google her. She's fab, and you'll learn a lot from her website. And Sam is also Aldi's wine expert. Thanks, Sam. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome.
I'm imagining you're no stranger to being quizzed about wine.
Yeah, no, correct. It's my husband's a management consultant, and I'm in wine, and we go for dinner. What do you do? There's not really often a follow-up question for him, but for me, you get asked a lot because most people do drink wine, and everyone relates to it on a personal level, and normally has some questions, and they can ask a question without looking foolish because it's private.
Yeah, oh, brilliant. I think I might be inviting you over.
You can catch up afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just really interested to understand or just to hear why you love wine so much.
I love wine. I do love wine. I'm very lucky. It's my job. So, but it can be a bit like a busman's holiday, like anyone who works. So, I'm not brilliant at going to wine regions on my holidays because, I'd rather sit on the beach.
Yeah.
But I do love it, and I love the fact it's global. As a younger lady, I travel the world, going to loads of wineries. You meet really great people who tend to be really passionate, really good at sharing their knowledge and information. I like to eat, so I like food. I love travel. So you got food, you got travel, you got wine. It's all quite sensory. It's kind of romantic. Wine has been enjoyed for centuries, right? I mean, and in all kind of guises. It's celebrations, commiserations, religious reasons. I think it's just a really nuanced, fun, fascinating topic that, however much there's always masses to learn. So it keeps you interested and on your toes.
I think that's a really good thing, being fun, because I think we can all get very, very serious about wine
and intimidated about wine.
Exactly.
It's in terms of the alcohol category, you've got spirits and you've got wine, and I always think with wine the big difference is it's made in the vineyards. It's essentially an agricultural product, and there's a lot of snobbery and a premiumization, whatever that word is, about it. But at the end of the day, I just love the fact it's a bunch of grapes on a vine that gets pressed. Yeast ferments the sugar into alcohol, and it's into wine. But then they've got all this extra layers and complexity about it. But when you drill down into it, it should be quite simple, but it's not.
Well, we'll pick that up again later, I think. So, alcohol, as you've kind of alluded to, is a massive category, and it's going through huge change, isn't it, at the moment, most notably in gin and whiskey. So you've got that craft movement, new flavours, rich backstories being created, new consumers coming into the market.
Definitely.
Amazing packaging. I mean, they're just like being in a sweet shop sometimes, looking at all the bottles, and brand experiences and technology helping to deepen those experiences. And I guess by comparison, you could say, if you're being a little bit mean, that wine is maybe being left a little bit behind. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, that is a tricky question. I think because wine is so fragmented. I think when you've got wine itself as a brand, and then you've got hard brands, you've got soft brands. So you've got hard brands like let's say Hardy's, Jacob's Creek, what have you. Then you've got soft brands that might be a region like Sancerre or Champagne, or even a grape variety. So there are massive soft brands within wine that kind of do work as brands. But I think the history, the complexity of it makes it very hard to treat it in the same way as spirits. I mean, it would be the holy grail if someone could find out how to do it. Just make it a little bit more funky, a bit more approachable. I think the experiential side would be really interesting. Really helping consumers. The thing I really think is, because I deal with wine all the time, and I'm judging wine, for example, and I'm always with other people who know a lot about wine, it's really easy to forget how little people outside the expert bubble know. And that needs constantly communicating. So you can help people into the category, move around the category, trade up within the category. But yeah, I mean, arguably wine is not as never really been seen as cool. It's not as cool as gin or in anything. I think even rum and vodka are coming up as well. But I think it offers different things. But I think that whole and with the whole natural wine movement, which we can talk about later, I think when the whole movement of the sommelier, there's a kind of slight, certainly in America, there's quite a cult of that right now. But no, it's really tricky because a lot of the wineries are so small and they don't have the kind of marketing power or budget, and there's just so many of them.
So not necessarily any reasons why it can't be cooler, because
that's a really interesting question about wine being cool. I think in order to make a huge splash with consumers and make attraction, you need budget. You do need budget. You need to tell people about it. You can launch a product that's amazing, but if you can't tell anyone about it, it kind of matters not. So as ever, it's all about how to reach the consumer, how to make it interesting. And for wine, more than anything, I think it's about making it accessible. And in order to make it accessible, I think you have to educate and explain and help people understand all the different nuances. But if you that needs doing in a fun approach, approachable way.
I guess you've got to do two things as a wine brand owner. You've got to drive awareness and tell people that you exist, and you've got to educate. And I guess budgets don't often split to both of them. You've got to make a choice.
And obviously with brands, they have to be available. So the most important thing you need to do really is to get it on the shelf. So once you get it on the shelf and you've got some traction behind the brand, and I guess some multiples want it on the shelf, and then people can buy it. And then going back to the whole fact that people don't know so much about wine, brands have a massive position to play because they're the safety net. If you see something and you try it and you like it, then that's a very comforting place for a lot of consumers to be. And the majority of consumers buy their wines in supermarkets. Obviously you've got and they're really important. You've got independent shops, and obviously online is becoming huge. But actually, for the majority of UK consumers, the supermarket is still
First
massive.
Point of call. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I thought I'm dressed for the occasion today. I'm all in green because it's actually World Environment Day today. And I think it seems appropriate then to talk about one of the big trends that we're seeing in many categories, in fact, reverberating around the world, I'd say, which is conscious consumerism. And that the definition really of that is consumers wanting to have a more positive impact on the environment, the world around them, through the choices they're making, whether that's people, the planet, or the environment, being hyper conscious of the decisions and the costs that they're kind of causing the environment. So are you seeing this kind of happening in wine?
Massively. I think across every category it's enormous. I think there's lots of different tiers actually. So you've got, I think, a consciousness of the environment and the wider health of the world, and in personal health as well. So in wine, a big category at the moment is lower alcohol, and people trying to watch their units and be healthy. And then once they kind of drill into that within themselves, they're then looking at it in a wide issue. I think there's definite increasing trends in organic wine, biodynamic wine, vegan wine, and then what we call natural wine, which I have to say I take huge umbrage with the term because it implies that other wines aren't natural. But they're basically wines that are have minimal manipulation, so they have to be organic as a minimum. And then they kind of really don't have anything done to them in the winery. So they'll use wild yeast to do the fermentation. So some of the wines might be cloudy, made in quite traditional ways, maybe made in kind of concrete. And just really quite old-fashioned. Less sulphur, which again goes into your, the health thing and environment thing. Although for me, that's the one thing that's a slight red herring. The amount of sulphur is a preservative. So when you leave an apple out and it goes brown, you'll treat a wine with sulphur to make sure that it doesn't oxidize. So it is an important preservative, and it's not used in huge doses. Some people, very few people, do have an allergy to it. But there's less sulphur in a bottle of wine than in a bag of dried apricots or in some sweets. So I think people hear this sulphur thing and jump on the bandwagon a little bit. But I think the people who genuinely have a reaction to it are it's minimal. But all these things, yes, I mean, organic, biodynamic, natural, vegan, lower alcohol. They are definite trends that you are seeing on the shelf. And I think people, the whole less drink better. So drinking less, but drinking not, better wine. People getting more conscious of sort of hangovers and so lower alcohol again is quite a big thing. But I'd say they're all very strong trends. Yeah.
So low alcohol sounds like the dream, doesn't it? Like drink loads, don't feel terrible the next day.
Yeah, the only problem is you compromise on everything. So you lower the alcohol and you're basically lowering everything. So in order to get that kind of viscosity and structure in the palate, you're adding sugar. But then sugar actually has less calories in than alcohol. Alcohol is more fattening if you are watching a weight while drinking. So I would personally go for a natural lower alcohol wine, like Prosecco is only 11%, which is relatively low, and then Riesling is a lower alcohol grape. I'd be more tempted to try and find a wine that naturally comes with low alcohol than one that's been really manipulated into having a low alcohol and at the end product has a passing resemblance to wine. But they are getting better. And then and look at Seedlip, no alcohol. There's some big brands doing it amazingly.
But then you're adding tonic in that sort of
quite fattening,
adds flavour.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so are you expecting over the next 18 months or so to see any other big changes, do you think?
So I think wine as a category are definitely, this whole environmental thing I think is really important, and I think actually that needs to be drilled into more. And I think I was reading something that was really bad the other day about how many litres of water goes into growing a single avocado in Chile, like in dry regions, and almonds massively so. And so I think for me, I'd really like there to be a wide action on drilling down into like how green is your wine? What has it been dry farmed? Is it irrigated? How much water's gone in? Because it's not just about being organic. It's actually a wider, is it fair trade, or I don't know. There's loads of different things that but then you can get deeper and deeper into it. How's it been shipped? Has it been shipped in a big sort of tank? In which case, it's probably hasn't it's kind of cheaper as well, or is it shipped in bottles? Where's it come from? I think increasingly English wine, local wines, interesting, and it also ties into the drink less, drink better, because it's more expensive than most. But I think that's really interesting. Certainly local, sort of home county wineries that are also organic on top of that as well. And then of course Brexit, I think, is keeping a lot of the people in the wine industry on their toes.
And do you think they're reacting to it, or are they sort of like rabbit in the headlights, stay still, freeze, or are they planning for post-Brexit?
Yeah,
do you think?
The latter. Yeah, definitely. I think so. I mean, I think people have huge departments. People are stockpiling wine. People just don't know what's going to happen with trade. And
what do you think? Consumers are stockpiling wine, or
no, the
retailers?
Yeah. And importers. Oh, I think it's a real pain for everyone, right? But with anyone who's doing imports, exports across Europe, it's
So we might see British wine having a real successful period over the next.
So there's British wine as one term, and then there's sort of English wine and wine from Great Britain. There's all different terms you can use. But in terms of sort of homegrown, still and sparkling wines, I think they're really making real inroads. The wines are amazing. The quality's never been better. The vintage last year, 2018, that really lovely hot summer. So the quality's there, the quantity's there. They're exporting now to the States and whatnot. So no, I think that's a fascinating area, and definitely have noticed myself drinking more and more English wine at home. Definitely.
We're very lucky from coming from Kent, aren't we, with Chapel Down? And,
we got Kent, and then obviously I'm just over in Sussex. We've got masses there as well, and lots of smaller places, and it's just really nice to support that. In fact, I was just wandering past an independent shop at the weekend, and they were doing a tasting of a Bacchus and a fizz, and so I just went home with a nice bottle of Bacchus.
Lovely.
Lovely.
The other sort of big trend that we're seeing across many categories is that of educator brands. So brands behave, educating consumers more, and that's partly because consumers want to have more knowledge. They're taking the value in, building their hobbies and being more informed about things, and it's now become a bit of a necessity for brands rather than just a nice thing they can do. And I think that the wine category still for me is one of the most overwhelming in store, and I know people talk about a wall of wine, don't they, just being hit by bottles and being kind of starstruck. If you were to start again in the industry, in the knowledge that you've got to help people understand wine better, how might you approach it?
So the thing, so wine is really complicated because there are so many. You don't just have the different kind of domains, but you've got different grape varieties, different regions, all that kind of thing. And I think when you go into the supermarket, which is where a majority of people shop, I currently don't think the signposts are there. I don't think it's helpful enough. It's organised by region. Which people still don't understand, and I think people keep failing to understand that people don't understand that.
Yeah, it's fine if you're going on a holiday.
Yeah,
but not if you're tasting your palate. What is your palate?
No, exactly, and everyone's different. So people taste different things, people like different things, and I think if it were me, I would completely rechange the format. I think there should be, I don't know, with tech and stuff, you don't need a person in store. And I know people are time poor when they are shopping, and I know that people want to get in and get out, and they've got pressures on space around the shelves, and you've got loads of practical things as well. But I'm sure a supermarket did trial putting some like iPads in store and whatnot, and people can find information. But again, it all goes down to engagement and how engaged a person is who's trying to do it. But for me, the key thing about wine is the great variety that the wine is made from, and then that tends to have an intrinsic flavour, and that changes subtly according to where in the world it's grown. So, for example, Sauvignon Blanc is really popular, and in the classic French regions of, say, Sancerre, Touraine, Pouilly-Fumé, they are regions and they grow Sauvignon. And that Sauvignon's from a cooler climate than, say, New Zealand, and it's just a bit more kind of elderflowery, crisp, tight light, unoaked. And then in New Zealand, that's translated and it's more kind of passion fruity, capsicum-y, kind of grassy, and but it's green, it's fresh, it's crunchy, and it's always going to be like that wherever you buy it from, largely. And that's the kind of thing the consumer needs to know. They need to know, what does it taste like, and in order to know what it tastes like, they need to know what the grape variety is, and then if they want to drill into subtleties, they then need to know where it's from. And in the new world, it'll say on the label, this is Sauvignon, and in the old world, it's labelled by region, so it says Sancerre or Chablis or Rioja or Chianti or Champagne. And so that whole educational element to tell people basically what grape is in what region, because then they can tell they know what the grape is, whether they're going to like it or not, and just organise everything by taste. And everyone's taste is different. So everyone's got a different number of taste buds, right? So you might be a hyper taster. You'd be really sensitive. You're never going to like wines with big sort of tannins and really grippy. You're going to like probably more mellow wines. I'd organise it by taste and flavour.
That is fascinating. I had no idea that we all differed so much.
Yeah, I went to an amazing thing, and they put some flavour compounds in a glass of water, and I tasted roses, other people tasted lemons, and some people didn't taste anything. Like, you're genetically predisposed to not taste certain things. So the most important thing for consumers with wine is working out what they like, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks or peer pressure. If you like whatever you like, and that's great.
And that's okay. So you don't have to feel the need to learn, but your palate needs to be trained in any way.
No, so yeah, and so often people do. They do as they get more into wine, it does change subtly. But your taste buds are your taste buds, and everyone's different, and people do like different things. So it's good to find out what you like and give yourself knowledge, because once you've got your knowledge, you've got confidence, and confidence is power. And it's then, I don't know, you've got that confidence to do what you want with wine more.
Yeah, really interesting. And for any of our listeners that want to learn a bit more about taste, you've got a wonderful wine tree on your website.
My wine flavour tree, yeah, it's really cool.
Did you create that?
Yeah, I did.
It's really clever.
With a
and
designer.
Actually really nicely laid out, obviously, but it's a really nice way of breaking down the flavours and where you could expect to get those flavours from in a grape.
Totally, yeah.
I was saying to a colleague earlier on, how do you get bacon from? And I wondered whether consumers think that actually the flavours that you get from wine, how have they got those flavours into the bottle? But it doesn't work that way, does it?
No, they're flavour compounds, and they're found in the skins of the grapes. So when you make wine, you're basically trying to extract colour, flavour, and structure from the grape skins. That's what they found. And it's still kind of early days in terms of the science of flavour compounds, but I'm fascinated by it. I'm desperate to go to Australia and do some work at the research institute there. But it's amazing. But certainly in like Northern Rhone Syrah, it's extraordinary. You literally can put your nose in a glass of wine and you can just smell bacon frazzles. It's hilarious, and you really can. And that's
my kind of wine. That
is. It's one of my favourites. And that's why if you ever go down the route of blind tasting, the fact that these wines genuinely do smell of these certain things is why you can recognise wines after some training.
Which brings me back to one of my first comments, which is wine really is glorious. There's nothing quite like it, is it? It's so complex, so fun, so interesting, so much more that you can get from it if you have a bit of confidence, have a bit of faith.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly.
Have a bit
of knowledge,
hand-holding.
bit of confidence, and that just gives you a bit of a helping hand to know more what you like, so you can enjoy it more. Which, let's face it, it's kind of the whole point. It's a luxury, not a necessity.
Entirely.
So it's good to enjoy that glass at the end of the day.
Thank you. One last question then.
Yes.
So this is kind of a fun one, really.
Yes.
So I noticed on your Instagram you do get invited to some nice places, nice events. What are some of the best brand experienced events that you've been to, and why?
So for me, they are the ones that are in situ. So because wine is this kind of slightly luxurious, romantic product, I guess, for want of a better word. I love the fact when it's associated, when you're in the region and you can really understand it, and you have it with the local food and you chat to the people who've made it, and it just brings everything alive, and it really helps to understand it. So you go to Champagne, or you go to Burgundy, or you go to Australia and you sit in the winery, and it becomes this really kind of complete experience. So for me, I do love it when we get taken. I love going abroad, and there's nothing like understanding where on a map you are, what you're drinking, seeing the soil it's from, and just getting this really kind of rounded experience. But champagne, sparkling wine, and particularly champagne, is probably my passion. So they're always my favourite.
So some
events.
clues in there, I think, for how brands can not only bring consumers on that journey and help them to understand and feel and believe in the whole picture, but also how they can work with influencers as well. It feels like
definitely
they've got to be doing that more.
Get out there, get into the vineyard.
Sure. Oh my goodness, I've learned so much, and it's only been 20 minutes or so, but thank you so much. Thank you, Sam. What are you up to next? What's your next thing?
Today, I'm hosting a corporate wine dinner tonight.
Oh, lovely.
So yes, I'm off to Holborn.
Oh, very nice. Well, enjoy that. I hope it goes well, and thank you.
Pleasure.